I'm going to call the July 21st, 2026 Committee of the Whole to order. First on the agenda is roll call. Clerk.
Commissioner Morales, Commissioner Ray, Chair Stubbs, Vice Chair Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Wheeler,
Here. Here.
Commissioner DeLue,
Here.
Commissioner Gisler,
Here.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler, Commissioner Mazer. 5 present.
All right, thank you very much. And we've got Commissioner Mazer was not feeling well. Commissioner Pro Tem, Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler informed us at the last meeting that he'd be out of town. And Commissioner Monteith called me, and Chair Ray, or not Chair Ray, Chair Stubbs called me as well. So they're not going to be here. I think Commissioner Morales will be here later. Next up is public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board. Please give us your name, where you're from. You have up to 3 minutes, and please try to be respectful. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chandra Kenny. I'm here representing the Kalamazoo Conservation District, here with some countywide natural resource updates. First on my list, our conservation technicians have been working with landowners to gain funding for conservation practices being implemented on private lands within our county. And thus far, this year, we have obligated $610,000 of federal dollars of cost share reimbursement into Kalamazoo County. We have also been expanding some of our MDARD programming, and they are now offering some new soil health management services that will be available as of now, including soil health testing and a long-term soil health management plan to ensure better growth. Next up on my list revolves around waste management. Last month, we did co-host the 3rd annual Kalamazoo River Cleanup. With this collaboration, we had many partners across the county, and we worked to remove 2.5 tons of waste from the Kalamazoo watershed. Next up on waste removal, we did finish our 2nd scrap tire recycling event of the year. Currently, we do have 4 scheduled for the year, and thus far, we have already been exceeding our expectations. I've recycled more than 3,000 tires this year. And last on my list is at the end of this month, we will be launching the Kalamazoo County Conservation Needs Assessment Survey. So I will bring this to the board and ask all municipalities, organizations, anybody who lives, works, or plays in this space, please fill out this survey and ensure that you are contributing your voice into how the Kalamazoo Conservation District should grow over the next 5 years to ensure we're growing based off of community need. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shauna Espinoza. So I came to the board to ask you guys to look at and endorse the ESP Bill of Rights, which is for support staff, for like your bus drivers, your paras, your secretaries. So this is something that I'm working with the MEA. We're asking for a thriving wage, good health care, good retirement, a safe place to work, PDs, the stuff that support staff really don't get and respect. So I'm asking if the board as a whole and individually can endorse. This will help us gain support so we can be able to bring this to legislative and get this into law. I believe Monteith and Jen have already endorsed it a while ago, maybe even Tammy. But I'm asking if you guys could, as a whole, I have things so you guys can look at it and let me know maybe before or after the election. And then also, these are postcards. If you guys look over it and if you guys can put a stamp on it and send it to somebody, that would be great. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members wishing to address the board? Sheriff Fuller. Hello, board. Thank you very much for this 3 minutes. I wanted to make sure the community heard from the sheriff the situation with our deputy that was injured last Friday. He was assaulted and shot in his leg. What we want everyone to understand is that throughout the entire event, all of the law enforcement, the fire, the EMS came together throughout this entire area to help end the situation as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. Great response. At the same time, I say thank you to the community and thank you to this board and all those individuals who have reached out and personally offered their prayers and support. That's huge. It's gone a long way. I'm happy to tell you that yesterday, and this is a significant injury that the deputy has suffered, but after surgery and the initial care, that person's been released to go home to continue their care through that process. It is a significant injury, and it's going to take a while. And we want everybody to understand that your support and your thoughts and prayers, of course, are greatly appreciated. But at the same time, I want and I hope everybody can just understand law enforcement day in and day out, fire, EMS, day in and day out. They go out, they put on their uniforms, they put on their badges, they put on whatever gear that group of people carry with them. And they do a job, not for the money, but for the community. And so that's what we had the other day. It's just another prime example of the community coming together, working hard to solve a problem, to save lives, and to make sure that at the end of the day, we were all able to go home as safe as possible. I just want to say thank you for that. There'll be more updates as we go along. And of course, the suspect in this case was apprehended, and the possible threat to the community was ended fairly quickly. So again, thank you to all these partners. There's so many partners that I've started to try and thank them and help them understand how much we appreciate this. We're still working on the list because I'll find out that so-and-so police agency did this part, or the EMS were here and ready because they heard what was going on. Those are great things to know. But in the end of it, it was a full community effort, and the suspect was taken into custody, and the deputy was able to go to the hospital and have a recovery in motion. So thank you very much. Thank you, Sheriff, for all you do. And thank the officers, every officer, for what they do from this board. We very much appreciate your service. Is there any other members wishing to address the board? Dr. Callan, is there anybody online?
I do not believe so. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Well, that means, Ryan, you're up. Review of accounts payable and payroll disbursements.
Vice Chair, Commissioners. This evening, we have accounts payable claims list totaling $6,558,975.09 is presented for review. Of this total, the Board of Commissioners asked to approve claims totaling $6,446,107.82. Payroll disbursements totaling $4,588,761.76 are presented for the July 17th general payroll. With that said, we welcome any questions from the Board of Commissioners at this time.
Any questions from commissioners? Okay. No, while I have you here, did you send me? I must have missed it, or I probably did miss it. The monthly financial reports. I know we weren't going to put that in this month, but then
those are under communications this evening.
Oh, communications. Yes. That's why.
But definitely check them out. They're the most fantastic reports our team has put together year to date.
Thank you. I look forward to looking at it in between meetings. Apologize for not seeing that.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Tyler White, Chief Deputy Treasurer.
Thank you. So as of June 30th, the county's investment portfolio had a par value balance of $189,393,531.27 and a market value of $188,104,345.26 There's a large increase in the value of our portfolio from May to June. That stems from investment of the proceeds of the youth sports facility bond that will be paid out in installments as construction is completed. The mark-to-market variance between our par and market values is $1,289,186.01. It's a $621,000 increase from May. As a reminder, that only impacts the county's bottom line if we were to liquidate our portfolio. Our strategies hold assets until maturity to avoid any realized losses. For the month of June, our portfolio earned $559,865.70 on an average daily balance of $178,763,554.77. It's an effective rate of return on the county's investments of 3.81%. It's inclusive of all of our realized gains and losses, sales, maturities, as well as amortization of premiums and discounts. Of the $559,000, $239,114 relates to the general fund and budget stabilization investment pools. For the year to date, our portfolio has earned $3,195,165.30 on an average daily balance of $167,361,086.31. Our year-to-date return on investments is 3.85%, which is also inclusive of all the realized gains, losses, sales, maturities. And of the $3.1 million that we've earned, the general fund share is $1,664,334.32. If we assume that the next 6 months are similar to the last 6 months, we're on track to earn about $6.4 million for the year. Now for the inflation news. So inflation over the last 12 months was 3.5%, down from 4.2 in May, which is lower than our 3.81 return on investments. We're back to experiencing net gains in our purchasing power. We had a 0.31% gain in purchasing power. Inflation is spread across the following categories. Food is up 3%. Energy commodities or fuel is up 27.1%. Energy services or utilities is up 3.9%, of which electricity is up 4%, gas is up 3%, shelter is up 3.3%, transportation services up 3.4%, medical services up 2.9%, and other commodities, vehicles, apparel, medical commodities up 0.8%. So the good news front is that we had a 0.7% decrease in the 12-month inflation from May to June. Though the war in Iran now stepping back up, we expect that inflation is going to rise with it. The hope is that cooler heads prevail and there is still some sort of agreement to be made. The biggest change from month to month was the energy subset of our inflation. It went from a 40-some-odd% increase to 27%, and since hostilities have resumed, that's gone right back up again. AAA's gas prices have shown that as of this time last month, national average is about $4 a gallon. Now it's about $4.12. So we'll see that borne out in the data. With that said, consumer core prices, all of our prices minus food and energy, because they're volatile, did not change from May to June. So we've seen a 0.6% increase in the core pricing since March, suggesting some of our businesses are still holding on and not pushing cost increases onto the consumer, which is a good sign that we did not see that change. With all of that, though we have had decreases in gasoline, even if peace were to come about today, it will still take time to get the oil market back in normal straits, just based on the time it would take to rebuild infrastructure, get the oil market back up to what it was pre-war levels. So we expect to see higher oil prices at least through the end of the year into 2027. As always, we'll continue to monitor, keep the board updated. I'd be happy to take questions.
Questions from commissioners? Just really quick, I've noticed that traditionally it was about 60% when you were rule of thumb when you were trying to when I was always trying to imply the interest income associated with the general fund. That percentage dropped. Is that because of the youth sports complex center and the interest earned from that money would go and that dropped that percentage?
Yes, sir. So the large increase in our PAR and market values, all of that was youth sports facility. It was over $40 million invested into that. We have been continuing to draw down on general fund to pay for ongoing expenses. But now we have property tax collections rolling in again now that July 1st has passed. We're getting those payments in from our local units. We'll be refilling our investment pools and we'll be seeing that tick up with the general fund. But I wouldn't expect that 60% to hold, at least going forward, because we've got the 40 million in the youth sports facility. So a big chunk of that is going to be flowing into that.
Any other questions? You're off the hook. All right. I do want to make one change to the agenda. Corporate Counsel has, during our closed session, for the negotiation of a CBA with the Sergeants Association, and I don't believe we had listed Sergeant. We had closed session with Sergeants Association, but CBA of Sergeants Association? Collective bargaining agreement. I was pretty sure it wasn't a community benefit. Collective bargaining agreement with the Sergeants Association. All right. Next, we have our comprehensive financial audit report. Peter Wolderman.
There you go. So you should be able to use that. I'm going to move this so you can see. But there we go. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm going to briefly walk you through the audit report. I want to first start out by saying a special thanks to Ryan and Phil for another successful audit and accommodating all our requests as part of the audit. We'll get into our audit opinion. This is an unmodified opinion we rendered on the financial statements. It's a clean opinion. What that means is your financial statements are materially correct for all respective purposes, and it's useful in making decisions. The report is quite lengthy, almost over 250 pages. We'll highlight the areas of interest. So if I was going to read the report, I would focus on the transmittal letter, pages 3 to 9. It focuses on the profile of the government, the financial conditions and factors, along with any awards and acknowledgments that you may have received over the previous audit. The next area is management's discussion and analysis. This actually comes from management. We assist with writing that, but most of the wording comes from management. Provides a good summary of the financials, a good year-over-year comparison of the governmental and business type activities, along with analysis of the general fund and each major fund. Lastly, if you're looking for a very brief summary, it's our summary of auditors' results. This is part of the single audit. It provides an overview of the financial statements. Our opinion that was rendered talks about the federal awards and which programs we audited as major programs this year. And then we'll get into the general fund. Total fund balance for the general fund at December 31st, 2025 was $40,887,957. Of that, $3 million is restricted for budget stabilization. $3.3 million is committed for various programs based on the funding it receives, leaving unassigned fund balance at $34,068,735, which is available for spending and use. The actual change in fund balance was an increase of $4,964,860. Your final budgeted change in fund balance, you actually budgeted for a decrease of $6,488,544. Again, actual results came in at a positive, just shy of $5 million there, the $4,964,000.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Before I forget this, the budgeted decrease, that was based on the kind of the ratio with our property tax collection, with some of it going to CIP, and also our investment income, some of it going to CIP, or no? Or was that just a straight up, did we budget 2026 with it using that amount of money from unrestricted reserves or something?
So if we're looking at the expenditures of the government, I have written down here, general government was under budget by $1,926,506, primarily due to not using $995,800 related to projected salary pool shortfall. Public safety was under budget by $1,263,223. Just cautious spending by the sheriff's department. And then the biggest variance, transfers out, was under budget by $3,763,552. Certain programs did not need as much of the general fund support than initially planned. So that would be transfers to other funds.
Within the county?
Yes. Further general fund analysis. So what most boards would want to know is the balance as a percentage of expenditures and transfers out. Total fund balance represents 44.9% of annual general fund expenditures and transfers out, which is roughly 5.4 months. Unassigned fund balance, which is available for general spending, represents 37.4% of annual expenditures and transfers out, which is about 4.5 months. So as cash flows change throughout the year with property taxes coming in, the county can operate for about 4.5 months. One of the things I like to point out is the long-term debt of the county. So this is for the governmental activities. You can see $77.9 million in outstanding bonds. There were no issuances in 2025, and $3.2 million of bonds was repaid in 2025. That does not include the interest piece of the bonds. And then the schedule to the right there shows your upcoming payments, principal and interest. In 2026, looks like $3,220,000 in principal and just over $2.1 million in interest. So the county's debt remains manageable for all intensive purposes. And then if there's any questions, I can try and answer those now.
Commissioner Gissler.
Thank you, John. Question I have, I guess, is, are we still being overly cautious? We decided not to be quite as cautious as we have been, and it looks like we're still, for one way or another, being overly cautious. Or did that just happen?
I think it may have just happened based on the circumstances of 2025.
Okay. I have one other question, and that has to do with the bonds that we're paying on. Do we still earn a AA plus bond rating?
That's a good question. I believe you did. I can check the report here quick a second. You would actually find that in management's discussion and analysis towards the back. Yes, AA plus rating.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple quick ones. One of them is just a kind of a comment on the probably the administrative section. It's probably for you, Ryan. The Kalamazoo Township Fire Station, you've got $15 million for that. They're doing $45 million for the full campus, and the fire station was 10.5. That was just on the financial conditions factor, which would be in the very first part of it that we do. I think I'm trying to find the page. It's just that's minor. But I did have a couple questions. One was about the Keys to Kalamazoo donation. I thought that would have been under our restricted, correct? Or is that non-restricted?
We deemed it, Vice Chair, as a fund that we created solely, specifically for the donation. So by default, in our eyes, in conjunction with the auditor support, that fund may only be used for the intentions of which it was received. And therefore, we may have not classified it as a restricted fund balance, but due to the nature of the fund, it is restricted essentially as it is its own separate fund as well as its own separate bank accounts.
Okay.
So that's how we deem that.
Okay. I just saw, looking from a 50,000 foot level, and I saw the unrestricted portion of it. So that'll be moved over. And then the last comments I have was the one with there were two of them actually, the financial statements that were the repeating ones. What do you think that we will be, or what do we have to do us internally to make sure that they're not reoccurring next year in the audit statements? It says here about making sure that we have year-end accurate and reporting year-end, and we're not making adjustments during the audit field work. I'll be honest with you, I don't know everything what that means. But I'm just saying, I know that they were repeat findings, and I was just wondering, how do we stop or what are we going to do internally to stop the repeat findings?
So our recommendation is that you're reviewing and reconciling, your balance sheet, making sure that it's accurate before it comes to us. So that way, if we won't identify anything. What stems as a material audit adjustment is based on dollar amount from thresholds we set.
Okay.
So something less significant would not be an issue. It's just based on how much we adjusted.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other commissioners or questions from commissioners? Commissioner Kessler.
Yes, nice job. I really appreciate it. Not that I understood all of it, but most of it, I think. And I do have a question for you, and I try to ask this of every presentation like this, highly financial and that sort of thing. You don't happen to be an actuary, do you?
I am not.
Excellent. Because my definition of an actuary, I love to roll out. An actuary is someone that wanted to be an accountant but didn't have the personality.
No, it's levity is good. Any other comments from commissioners? Administrator Keller.
Thank you, Chair. And I just wanted to comment on your question about the Texas fire station. Kalamazoo Township Fire Station, rather. It's on Texel Drive. That's why I said Texas. But initially in 2025, this report's on 2025 activity. And when I draft that report, it's based on 2025 numbers. And at the time when they announced that fire station, it didn't contemplate. I think for a couple of things, I think one, we're mixing up the building, the combined police station township hall. That is a $45 million project. This project on Texel Drive is a $15 million fire station. It's right off Gold Road. So it doesn't contemplate the $45 million project yet because that's 2026 activity, if that makes sense. This is 2025.
Thank you. That makes sense. Director Post.
Vice Chair, if I may just respond to your question as well as to Commissioner Gissler's. First, Commissioner Gissler's in order. Commissioner Gissler, just to kind of give a little bit more meat on the bone in terms of your question with being conservative in Kalamazoo County. As we closed the audit in 2024, there was a $12 million carryover. As we closed the audit in 2025, there was just under a $5 million carryover. So I want to emphasize the fact that we cut that down with practices that we developed internally with the budget team. separately for Vice Chair Taylor's comment, about how we can address these internally so you have that better understanding, is we have a newly restructured finance department. We have a lead for audit and a lead for budget. As we continue to develop that structure, we continue to strengthen our practices in terms of what worked well, great, keep doing it, but what can we show improvement in? This is a situation here where we have strengthened already our practices, and we've already prepared for the next year's audit, and we do expect to address this for the 2026 audit. Thank you.
And I would be remiss if I didn't also help to answer Commissioner Gissler's question but he said 12 million before that it was 14, and said we are moving in the right direction. Absolutely. On the carryover.
Oh, Ryan stepped away. I thought you were going to tell me that you're an actuary.
You'll never get invited to John's Christmas party if you do. I think we're all set. Unless there's any other questions, I don't see any.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is discussion regarding a pilot hair care service program for residents lodged at the Kalamazoo County Jail. Dr. Callan.
All right, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. This evening, we have a proposal before you, and then an action item tonight if you desire to move it forward, to provide access to basic grooming services, to promote dignity of individuals while in county custody, and to support the orderly administration of justice. So we talked about this a couple of meetings ago, and have been working with the Kalamazoo County Defender's Office as well as the Sheriff's Office to bring something to you to consider. We also do have some members of the Sheriff's Office here if there's very specific questions about the jail, and then also Rachel, who's the Chief Defender of the KCDI for us. So if there's questions from the Defender's Office, what we anticipate is that based on historical utilization of services prior to COVID, anticipate about 17 services would be performed a month for an average of $65 per service at approximately $13,260 per year. Obviously being being at the midpoint rather of this year, we'd seek around $6,500 or so to bring that program to fruition. And this would be for services to accommodate all folks lodged at the jail. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And we have other experts here if there's any specific questions to the operation at the Defender's Office or at the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a question, but I just think that this is a fantastic program that I think we should all vote yes for.
Certainly a drop in the bucket. I mean, $6,000 and not $13,000. We spend more than that on carpet. So, any other commissioners? No, I think you're good. We're moving right along here. Next is a discussion regarding direction to the HR director concerning anti-obesity GLP-1 coverage. Director Brown.
Is it on? Yeah? All right. Good evening, commissioners and colleagues. Nice to see you. I'm coming to you tonight to look for guidance from you as we are working on finalizing recommendations for the healthcare plan and for 2027 for the county employees. One of the issues that has been before us over the past couple of years is the increasing costs of the GLP-1 medications that are prescribed specifically for anti-obesity. And I want to start out by just making sure we're really clear what we're talking about with that is GLP-1s are used for multiple purposes. A lot of times they are prescribed for folks who are dealing with diabetes or hypertension. That's not what we're looking at right now. There is also a whole class of drugs that are prescribed almost exclusively for anti-obesity to help people lose weight. They have been very effective. They're very popular. You see them all over TV with all the commercials, but they're also very expensive. And so this is one of the driving costs of why our premiums have been increasing at such a fast rate. I believe that you were provided with a little cheat sheet of some quick facts and figures, just because I'm going to be giving you a lot of numbers. And if you're like me, it's hard to get those just through the air. So that's why you can look at them too. So I wanted to just kind of call attention to how we got to the point of asking for this recommendation here is that starting in 2023, which is where my numbers start, we had 115 folks using these prescriptions for about $625,000 a year to the county's plan. You can look at that little chart there where it says the cost of the plan. You see it went up 100% in 24 and then up another 22% in 2025. So we are now over $1.5 million a year being spent simply on the healthcare plan's costs for the anti-obesity GLP-1s. And if you're familiar with how we figure out the rates for our employees and for the county of what our illustrative rates are for our plan, it is the sum total of all the costs to the plan sort of divided out across all the people who are in the plan. So when we add 1.5 million to the total spend, that gets figured out across everyone in the county, every employee's premium that they pay, as well as the cost to the county's plan itself. So right now, that 1.5 million is 20% of our total prescription spend for all prescriptions on our health plan. And then also what we have seen is that plan providers like our administrator, Blue Cross Blue Shield, have dropped this coverage from their standard plans a few years ago. And many counties and other large employers that are self-funded like we are have also chosen to not cover these prescriptions for anti-obesity only. And so you see that we're 520% over the benchmarks that we use to kind of compare our coverage and how we're coming in. 520% is a big difference. So I think that you can see how we got to bringing this question to you. So then if you look at the little chart I have below there, it talks a little bit about the the premium costs for our employees and what the real impact is. And these are just estimated rates, but we asked our insurance broker to let us know, looking at 2027, where do they predict our insurance rates are going to come in based on our spend so far in 26 and the patterns from 2025. And then how would that be changed if we did eliminate coverage for anti-obesity GLP-1s? And so to shorthand it all the way to the far right column of that green and blue there, you'll see that per paycheck for our employees, it's roughly twice as much of an increase. The increase is twice as much if we keep the GLP-1s than if we don't. If we keep the GLP-1 coverage, it will go up about 11.7% for our plan, which honestly is still beating the industry standard for this year, so that's good news. But if we don't increase them, then we can keep that down to 5.7%, which is really beating the industry standards right now that are in the 12 to 15% range. You might remember that for our 2026 plan, we had a double-digit increase around 19%, so this would be welcome by our staff. And that kind of goes to where I end this document here with some statistics on it, is the employee sentiment. You can imagine this is a really hot-button issue. There are strong feelings all across the board. And so it's hard to figure out what is it that the employees want. And to be honest, they don't all want the same thing. There are folks who shared with us through the employee benefits survey that they are using these medications for anti-obesity and that has been life-changing for them, that has improved their overall health. And that is a true story of our staff. We also have stories from our staff of people who feel frustrated that the only thing available through the county right now is a prescription solution when we don't have other gym memberships or wellness plans that might be more supportive. And folks who feel like the cost of health insurance is a real burden on their family, and knowing that there are folks who are maybe taking more than their share out of that plan and costing them money out of their check is something that frustrates them. And so they've lifted up in our plan, in our benefits survey that we did this year, we actually asked the question. We kind of gave a lot of the same information I just gave you and asked folks, based on that, how much do you agree with the statement that the county should continue to cover these medications? And you can see the split there. It does look like we've got about 45% or so that are in favor of continuing coverage and about 32% who are in favor of not continuing coverage or who disagree with the statement that we should. And then there's a solid 23.5% of people in the middle who really felt torn about this. I've gone through and reviewed about 300 comments that came along with this question, and I would say there is some misunderstanding in here for folks who are concerned we would be eliminating GLP-1s for folks who need them for diabetes or other medications. So that's a handful of the responses that I think may have swayed which end they would have been on if they'd understood the question fully. It was complicated to ask it and make sure everyone understood. But what we really see is a lot of folks who feel like they think there should be better options and that we should do more to support employees losing weight beyond just prescriptions or maybe instead of prescriptions. And then I'll also point to the fact that 39.95% of our employees responded that the cost of premiums is the most important thing for them about the insurance plan. And so while those two, they may have folks who are saying the premium's the most important thing to me, but I also think you should keep covering this. That's fair. It's a really complicated question, and not every employee on the benefits survey is able to look at every bit of detail. But here in the HR department, what we've been doing is working with our insurance broker and looking at this over the past year and a half since I've been here, and we see these costs just continue to skyrocket. At the same time, we're also seeing that these medications are becoming more available on the private market without insurance at cheaper prices, which also adds to the confusion. You may have seen ads where you can get $139 a month to get a prescription for a GLP-1, but that is specifically through a discount program through the medication company, the pharmaceutical company. That's not the charge that they send to the insurance when we put it through. So although those rates are out there and they're available to folks, they're not how it gets billed through the plan. We brought this question to our very newly formed Kalamazoo Healthcare Coalition. This is a coalition of members from our different bargaining units as well as from our general employees. And they met for the first time this year to review and give a recommendation to you all about what we should do with the health plan. And I'll have that full recommendation for you in short order. But tonight I do want to bring to you that when they met, they did reach consensus on recommending that we do eliminate GLP-1 coverage for anti-obesity. And so that came from the voice of our bargaining units as well. So all of that is to say, this is a tough question. Whatever choice we make, it's going to really impact employees. And so it is worth you all discussing it as well. I wanted to give you the information needed and try to help answer any questions I can so that we can start making plans now. The reason I'm bringing this to you separately from the rest of our healthcare recommendations that will be part of the budget process is because we know people are on these medications and we want to give them as much notice as we can if there's going to be a change so they can plan for it.
Quick question. Yeah, I noticed the survey. Have you thought about maybe doing a survey asking employees whether or not they've continued GLP-1 coverage, or we'd give every employee $1,500? That's the same thing.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I think that after I got the results, I've thought about how there might be ways to try to break this question apart into different pieces. And that would be one of the questions we can ask, but I haven't put that together or done that ask yet.
Okay. Well, I'll just say to this board, I think one of the craziest things that we do as a county is offer GLP-1s for non-diabetic, non-health related issues. It's costing us $1.5 million a year. We could do so much more with that, with benefits to our employees. And we're looking at, it's 20% of all prescription drug spends are for people that are using this for cosmetic reasons, not for health related reasons. So that's my point. I think that we are the only self-insured. Am I correct in this in the Midwest?
I think there were two. I apologize. I tried to get that number from our broker today. I had heard it in meetings, but I didn't have it written down. I think they said there's two in the state where
there was one UAW bargaining group. I think that was the top level executives that kept it. But other than that, I think Kalamazoo County is one of the only ones in the Midwest that still offer this. So, any thoughts from commissioners? Commissioner Kissling.
Thank you, John. Thanks for the presentation, and thanks for the handout too. I tried to just listen to you, and I actually comprehended most of what you had to say, but I'm going to really be happy to take that home and look at it. Refresh my memory. What other options either do we have for employees? Gym memberships you mentioned, that sort of thing?
Sure.
Or is that would be an add-on, maybe replacing the GLP-1s?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. I realized that was one of the things I meant to mention, and I skipped right over, was what we're considering in terms of supplementing if these medications go away. So to first answer your question, currently there's not any gym stipend or wellness stipend financial benefit that we have offered to our employees. That is something we have talked about in the past, and quite honestly, my first year when we were looking at the plan here last year for 2026, it really wasn't on the table because we had such incredibly high costs in our pharmacy spend. And so we didn't feel like there was funding available to recommend to do something else. Taking these GLP-1s out will free up money in the budget and could be a way for us to look at exploring an option like wellness stipends or some sort of program like that. At the same time, some other things we're looking at that are much easier to put into place and less financially impactful are a couple of pieces. We have our Pine Rest EAP and our Marathon Health Clinic. You all hear me talk about that every time I'm up here. But they both offer nutrition services. They both offer mental health services. And obesity is linked in many cases with mental health. And so being able to have a life coach or a counselor who's able to help you deal with some of the other underlying issues that may be leading to your struggles with weight from the mental side, those are both still there and available to our employees. We also have our HSA, Health Savings Account, and FSA, Flex Spending Accounts, which are available, which offer a tax advantage to folks. These medications would be qualified purchases through those plans, so you can put tax-free money aside, which offers you an additional discount on those discounted rates we see on TV. We also noticed and took note of the fact that one of the groups we hear from who are utilizing the GLP-1s are folks who are facing menopause and perimenopause, where weight loss becomes even more difficult for women. And so we are also looking at partnering with an organization that works with Blue Cross Blue Shield that offers actually sort of concierge service for people going through perimenopause, menopause, and also for male population who are facing hormonal changes in later life as well. They offer things like coaching, virtual care, gamified apps, things like that kind of help you with nutrition and plans for dealing with some of those changes, which could help support folks as well. And then lastly, there's a program called Teledoc, and these will all be part of our recommendations in our healthcare recommendation to you. But Teledoc is a program which works by using technology to have, you might have a scale or a blood pressure monitor that's at home that's virtually connected through cell towers to your provider team, and you're able to get real-time feedback and check-ins throughout your work with that Teledoc program. And that's meant to support weight loss as well as pre-diabetes management to try to keep people from needing to go on to diabetic treatment if their weight or their blood sugars continue to rise. So those are some of the programs we are exploring already as part of our health plan. But to your point, something like a wellness stipend is something that always has traction in our benefits survey and is something we've just not been in a position to do in the past. But we may be able to leverage this change to bring that into reality.
Wow, I asked a fairly straightforward, simple question. You gave me a very total answer. Thank you very much, Sharon.
Pleasure.
Mr. DeLue.
Yeah, I think you may have used a bad choice of words strictly for cosmetic reasons. I know people that have been on this, and it's just been a tremendous life change, not just physically, but mentally. It's happier employees. I mean, less visits to the chiropractor, less back problems, less, and you don't know what prescription drugs they'd be on if they continue to either maintain their weight or actually increase that weight. And when I look at the survey and I see almost 45% want to keep it, and then 23% don't care. To me, that's 2/3 that are like, yeah, let's keep it, compared to the 40% who want lower insurance costs. But I understand it's expensive. Vice Chair always talks about we're here for the employees, and I guess it's just my opinion at this point. It's well worth the money. Thank you.
Okay, I very much appreciate Commissioner DeLue's comments. I do want to be here for the employees. Part of that is I want to make sure that we are able to give a cost of living increase to employees. If we're going to be spending 10, 15%, 10% more on our healthcare, that really limits our ability to do things like whether it's RX Kids or whatever else money back into the community. This is $1.5 million a year, and it's going up by about 15 to 20%. And we're the only ones that do it. I mean, those are like boom, 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 3 red flags. So that's where I'm at. I do think that we need to do some sort of supplemental to replace this, whether it be hiring 10 nutritionists, giving everybody a free bike. That would be cheaper. Just the amount of dollars that we're spending, it's hard to fathom and comprehend that 20% of all of our prescription costs are going to one prescription. And I agree that if it's any sort of diabetic, if there's any sort of reason that a doctor is prescribing this, other than I want to lose 20 pounds for my daughter's wedding, then I think that we should do that. But we shouldn't be supplementing at $1.5 million a year a prescription that is not necessarily prescribed by a doctor. Thank you.
I appreciate that. May I offer one other thing? I will simply say that I think that when it comes to employee sentiment, some of the details you all are pointing out is part of what makes it really hard to capture in one question. I think that the question, would they rather have $1,500 or coverage, is a different question than, do you think we should keep covering it, in a vacuum of the survey? So I think it's really difficult in looking through the survey results from the employees. Obviously, I think we all know cost is a huge motivator for everyone. There's really not anyone who's like, plenty of money for insurance, no problem. So the cost is a real factor. And we did hear from people quite a bit last year about the significant increase. And there was a lot of negative feedback about that. I think what's difficult is measuring all of the different factors. So things like, what are the other costs of folks who don't lose weight, and what cost does that bring to the plan, as well as deciding for the doctor whether or not you need it. But to be clear, to eliminate these would be for only presenting with anti-obesity as the diagnosis. There'd be no comorbidities. So that's the fancy word for things like having another condition at the same time. And those would still be covered through the plan. This would be for simply obesity only treatment. And I think that if it is in the board's desire, I would be happy to try to get some more feedback, more specific dialed in questions from the employees for actual real life scenarios. If your premium was going to be this or that, does it change? And part of my question for you today is, what else would you like me to give you to be able to make this decision and make a recommendation to us so that we can go forward and message appropriately to the employees if there's going to be a change, and fully form the budget as well and bring you the recommendation for next year.
Are there thoughts from commissioners if we were to change or ask the HR director what kind of benefits we'd replace that with? Is that kind of the gist of it? I know Dale and I we're the only ones that spoke on which way we feel on this. Are there any other commissioners that want to put their Commissioner Gessler?
Put our oar in the water, so to speak. Well, it's interesting that you and Dale are on opposite sides of this, because you're the two most lean and mean guys at the dais here. I just hope I don't qualify for diabetic attention at some point. But I disregard with great vigor the comments made by two really slim, mean kind of guys. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair. I think narrowing the question would be beneficial. I mean, I think just giving employees the facts like, hey, this will make your premium lower, is that your motivator? Having, to see the whole, it's hard to see the whole picture, but that's the reality, is that if we do take GLP-1s off, your premium won't go up as much. I think that's a really important question versus just, should we still cover it? I think that narrowing it that way is going to really be what employees care about.
Director, if the premiums go up, the premiums would go up for the employees at the 20% level, and it would go up for us at the 80% level, correct?
That's correct. To be all the way clear, we don't actually pay that 80% to anyone on behalf of the county, but it is the charge to our plan. It's an estimated illustrative rate. In the end, what we pay is the actual cost of the medical care, but it's a way for us to budget appropriately based on the trend lines in our spending.
Well, do you have enough direction, or do you want more?
I would like to bring back to you a resolution at the next meeting, if I could, that would be a vote up or down for you all to say yes, continue coverage, or no, not. I think that's the explicit answer I'm looking for. I'd be happy to bring that next time.
This is just my gut telling me. I don't think this board would vote to eliminate it if there was no replacement. Or what that replacement would be, how much of that $1.5 million are we going to replace? If we could hire 2 nutritionists for $200,000 in-house at the county, or we could do gym memberships for $60 a month for every employee, or whatever. I'm just speaking off the top of my head here. Or life savings accounts or health savings accounts, whatever it is. I don't know, but I think there would need to be some sort of replacement. Am I wrong here that there would need to be some sort of replacement if we were going to eliminate that benefit? We'd probably look for a less costly benefit that wasn't growing at 20% a year.
Of course, I hate to keep adding work, but if you offer gym memberships, in my experience, one of the places I've worked anyway, how many would actually, I guess, how many are willing to commit to using it? You know, that's another question too. Like if we offer gym memberships, will you use it? That type of thing. Because I haven't had a good experience with fellow employees actually utilizing the benefit of a gym membership.
Absolutely. I'll say on that, one of the things I have heard, and I'm not going to pretend we have done a deep dive into what it would look like to operationalize a program like that, but there are a couple of factors. One is if we chose a gym in particular to say everyone can have a membership here, that would ease our administrative burden in some ways of being able to monitor if people are using it. You've probably heard of the programs where you have to go twice a month or something like that to maintain their membership. But the challenge with that, as I understand it from the county's philosophy, is the question about putting your thumb on the scale and picking one gym to get the county's whole business. So that's one challenge to that approach. If we instead did a stipend, I think you've nailed the problem there, is how do we verify or monitor that it is being used as designed, rather than people pocketing $60 a month for a gym membership but not ever going or not even having a membership. And if we're paying the membership directly, administratively, that becomes quite a burden if it's to any gym you could think of. So I think there are some operational concerns with trying to figure out how to operationalize that. So just off the cuff, I will say something that looks like a simple stipend that is meant for wellness and could perhaps be deposited into an FSA or HSA might be one way to get around that. But I'll be honest, it's got some headaches about how to operationalize it. And so it's going to take a little doing. I probably won't have a good plan for you of that in 2 weeks, but I could offer you a couple options that we could explore.
Could you use it, like you mentioned, an HSA with reimbursement policy? Or is that you could pay for it, we'd reimburse into the HSA with a receipt, that type of thing? Or is that even?
There would be ways to make that happen. We have a third-party administrator for our HSAs who manage the approval of bills. So I would need to get familiar with what they're willing to do and how much we would have to do in-house. I don't have that information today.
Okay, I guess the answer is come back with options of what we'll replace it with before we vote to get rid of it.
All right. Would you appreciate me bringing both the resolution and the options to the same meeting, or to bring one first and hold off on the resolution?
I think it would be best to bring them both to the same meeting. That way people will know.
Beautiful.
You get what you pay for instead of paying first and get it later.
I like that. I also like moving towards a decision quicker so we can tell our employees. So I'm on board. I will bring that back to you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on is Corporate Counsel, discussion of potential amendments to the board's bylaws and rules of procedure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As the members of this body are aware, Corporation Counsel's Office has undertaken an omnibus approach to amending and revising the bylaws and rules of procedures of the Board of Commissioners. Part of doing this is that the bylaws serve as the foundation for other policies which the Kalamazoo County government is governed by. And so we thought we'd start with the bylaws first, and then over the course of the next 6 months, we will visit and review the policies, including the FOIA policy, which was a moment of contention, if you will. But part of the thing that we hope to do with these revisions is to bring them in accord with what the present state of the law is, as well as other the codification of some of your practices already. If I may, sir, the first one, and I'd like to thank Commissioner Gessler for bringing this to my attention, as there was an oversight on my part, regards Section 1.1 and 1.4. We will correct the wording to speak to 4-year terms. Right now, it still has the 2-year terms. Next is the 4.4H, and this would be an amendment to your agenda. What this would involve is that it would allow for public comment for items listed on the agenda, meaning that if people are waiting to speak on an item which you may be considering at that meeting, they'll have an opportunity to express what their concerns and questions to you. And also this will help them manage their time as well, so they don't have to wait for the whole meeting if they have other things to do with their children, their family, or whatever. Next is item 4, is section 4.4J, resolutions. What we like to do is to put all the resolutions in one place for the body when they're considering them on the regular meeting agenda. Excuse me. So this way, the body as well as the public is aware that these are resolutions because this body acts through ordinances and through resolutions. So every action item in that regard will be in one section. Next is 4.4M, and that just provides public comment in general so that the public has an opportunity to speak to the body on anything, about anything that they wish to. We've also added live streaming availability. And this is really a codification of what your practice is already in terms of the YouTube broadcast. Next is, and that would be a new section, 4.6.1. Next would be 4.8, remote participation. Again, this codifies what we already do under MCL, under the Open Meetings Act, regarding not being able to attend for medical reasons or military reasons. So we simply place that into your bylaws. And then at 6.6 A and B, in regards to conflict of interest statements, the body just updated its conflict of interest statements, and this provides for the timing of when those are to be submitted. And then last, and I need to look at this one to get this. Oh, yes. Again, it mentions, it speaks to public participation, and then it just adds the language of public comments for items listed on the agenda and public comment general. Again, these are the recommendations of Corporation Counsel, and we did receive feedback, and we've incorporated those that we thought were appropriate for this body. And I'm open for questions. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner DeLue.
Well, I have two questions. First of all, on the information we got under 5.1, under Article 5 bodies, it's in yellow. Is that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I wanted to add that back in. There was an understanding, and I'd like to redo that because I believe that it speaks to advisory bodies when they're speaking to bodies. I didn't know what the bodies were at that time. So if there was a report from one of your advisory bodies, that would be included in that section.
If I may, the second one, 6.2C. I think that's what I eliminated. No, I'm sorry. That's not right. 6. Under Code of Ethics. Where's the about the agenda? I thought it was 6.2C. Oh boy, I just had it.
Oh, no, that's the organization. Sorry. But for your regular.
I'm sorry, it's 5.5. Committee of the whole agenda. No, committee of the whole rule. Well, I had it on my screen and I did something. It said on the agenda, like basically we had to read the agenda, which I think we've kind of done away with here. I'm sorry, Chair. I've lost my spot.
No worries. I can come back to you. That's got a couple questions myself. Okay, well, he's looking real quick. The 4.8, the remote participation, that's in complete accordance with state rules?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This body adopted that policy last year in regards to when Commissioner Morales was out, but she couldn't physically come here, but she was still able to participate. So that's when we came up with that policy.
Okay, so it's in concurrence with state law?
Yes, sir. If I may, sir. And that's why it's only for medical reasons or military service. Thank you.
Chair, if I may, 6.20C. It says a commissioner shall announce the items on the consent agenda of the County Board of Commissioners to be considered on the consent agenda. And those items that are not announced shall be considered separately. Now, to me, that indicates
Could you repeat that number, please?
6.20 under consent agenda.
Are you looking at the copy that was provided?
Yeah.
See. Oh, 6.20. 6.20. I'm sorry. Yeah, my apologies. Thank you. We will make a correction to that. This body did agree earlier that the reading of the consent agenda is something that it would no longer do, as that the agenda is published prior to the meeting. Thank you, sir.
And we're not voting on this tonight, obviously.
Oh, no, sir. This is just for discussion purposes.
Okay. And I guess I've got a question. What was the impetus to this?
There were, as we were going through things and we would look at different things, we noticed that there were things that were not updated. And then, like with the remote participation, although the body did approve that, it was never put into your bylaws. So that's why I wanted to take an omnibus approach so that we get it all cleaned up to move forward, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll get a final red line version of everything, because there's 6.2 is what I'm going through, professional conduct. Was that in the A through Z or A through O? Was that in the previous bylaws?
Yes, sir. 6.2. Yes, sir. There were no changes. No, sir. All my officer's recommended changes were in red. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's something else that you would like to see added, if you could just let us know, and we will research it to make sure that it's doable, first of all. And then we can add that in before the body takes it up in final form.
And I apologize. I've only gone, it's a long document. I've spent about 45 minutes on it, but I've gotten about 2/3 the way through. So I'll have any changes to your office before our next meeting or potential.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any other, Commissioner Gissler?
Thank you, John. Lou, I take my hat off to you for undertaking this project. You've already convinced me that it is necessary and we should be doing it. And I also want to tell you that reviewing bylaws is probably one of my most favorite things. Thank you.
Well, we're going to start a bylaws committee and you're going to be the chair.
We're in real trouble.
All right. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commissioner Wheeler, do you have a motion for us?
I do. Thank you, Chair. I move that the board, I move that the Board of Commissioners go into a closed session with the Sergeants Association pursuant to MCL 15.268C.
Is a motion and support. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Mazer, Commissioner Morales, Commissioner Ray.
Yes.
Chair Strebs, Vice Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLue,
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler. 5 yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. I'd just like to inform the public who may be watching and said that a closed session requires a supermajority. However, there are certain exceptions where a supermajority is not required, and this is one of them. Thank you, sir.
Just a supermajority of the majority, correct?
Of the entire body.